Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Gospelology podcast, where we are just excited and, elated about the miraculous powers of Jesus Christ and the marvelous world of science. My name is Latrice Williams McKnight, and I am your host, and we are just so excited tonight about what we're about to share. This week has been a very trying week for me and my household and some of our church family and some of the things that have just gone on in the world, in society today, with so many young people that are attempting suicides and so many people going through depression and anxieties. And so it was just laid upon my heart tonight that the Gospelology show should talk about these issues. So I reached out to the guest that was previously scheduled for today, and they agreed that we should do this. And I am just so blessed to have in my circle people who can support me when I go through things like this, and have been connected to an amazing young lady as well, who I know will be a blessing on tonight. And so I'm excited. I'm excited about the show tonight, about talking about the science meeting grief. That's right, science meeting grief. And so I could not do this podcast tonight without my guest, my client, my sister, my friend, Miss Deborah Jupiter Frye. And I am just so excited about her. Deborah is an amazing grief care consultant. She is a certified life coach. She is an eight-time best-selling author, and she knows what she's talking about when it comes to grief. She has the spirit, the empathy, the passion, and that's something that I've always shared with her as her coach, that we can't teach passion, but Deborah is passionate about this thing, and she is here tonight to share with us some things that we can do to help with our mental health, to help with our depression, to help with grief. And so I'm so excited to have Deborah with me tonight. And then I can't even talk about what I'm feeling right now with this young lady here tonight, Miss Ciara Hill. This young lady was a young lady who I met many years ago as an affiliate of First Baptist Church South Hill. And I had no idea that I'd be right back with her, working with her. And me and Ciara had the most amazing conversation about mental health with our young people on last week. And I told her I had to have her on here tonight for her point of view. So I'm excited to have this Regent University graduate in psychology here with me tonight. And all you 2009 Western Branchers, okay, your alumnus is on the line tonight. And so we're so excited to have her this evening. So my audience, the Gospelology show, welcome Miss Deborah Frye and Miss Ciara Hill. Ladies, thank you all for joining me tonight. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for taking the time out and on such short notice to just adhere to the spirit and just to do what I know that we were called to do for tonight. Somebody on here I know will be blessed. Somebody on here will be enlightened. Somebody on here will know that they can reach out and talk to somebody where they don't have to go go down that road of depression or suicidal thoughts by themselves. So I'm so grateful to have you all on the line tonight. We're going to start with Deborah. Deborah, I would like for you to introduce yourself to our audience. Share with us what you do as a grief care consultant, and why in the world did you decide to get in the field of grief care?
Well, thank you so much for having me. It is such a blessing to be here with you and Ciara tonight to talk about such a pressing subject. It's a subject that nobody wants to talk about, but it is a subject that we all must start to share and support one another in. I didn't choose grief. Grief chose me because grief is just one of those things where nobody wants to participate in. We just don't. And God gave me a passion for grief 22 years ago, and I've been able to hone in on my expertise in grief I just have a passion and a purpose for this time, just to help the brokenhearted. I am that bridge that help people from the broken side of grief back over to some self-assurance, right? You need to be sure of yourself when you're dealing with grief. You need to have some coping skills when you're dealing with grief. You need to have some kind of intentional will when you are dealing with grief. You have to read up on some things. We learn about some of everything else, but grief is a subject that nobody wants to pick up a book to read. But we must start using our best friend, Google. You must start Googling how to cope with grief, how to get over depression. You must be your first initiator. I tell people all the time that grief is going to meet every household. We are all going to have to deal with it. So why not prepare yourself with some knowledge, with some skills? And if you're not going through grief right now, reach back and help that person that is going through grief so that you can support them, so that when it's your turn, because we're all going to get a turn on this merry-go-round. So when it is your turn, there is a group and a core group of people that will help you. So again, it is my purpose and passion. So I just started my business, Grief Care Consulting LLC, and I started writing with the help of my coach, of course, you, Latrice Williams McKnight, and I am 8 books in, and I'm 4-time best-selling author in 1 year. So I wanted to go ahead and correct that. So 8 books in and 4-time best-selling author. And it is just all about helping the brokenhearted. And I am that person to do that. God has tagged me in that ring. So it has been an honor and a blessing to serve all of the families that I have served and those that he will bring in my direction as well.
Wow, thank you, Deborah. You've been an 8-time bestseller with me. You were a bestseller when you put out the first book.
Exactly.
So I claim that. I claim
yes.
that.
Yes.
So I'm just so excited, and thank you so much again, Deborah, for joining us on tonight. Ciara. Oh my goodness.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh my goodness. I have with me Ciara Hill, and I just want her to share a little bit about herself and just everything that she embodies. And I wish that I had a video. It did not work tonight, but there was a video that Ciara had did. And this was before I had asked her to be on. Ciara was actually introducing one of her friends' planners. And Ciara she's looking like, oh, you found that video? I can find all kind of things here on the Gospelology show, Ciara. But she had started out with just asking everybody, hi, how are you doing this evening? And then she went left. She said, I really mean it when I say, how are you doing? If you're not doing well, you can inbox me, you can DM me. Here's a young lady, y'all, who may not have known who was watching that live, but she just felt on herself that she needed to say that. And so that's why she's sitting here today, because she's going to share some things with us tonight. So Ciara, welcome, and please share with us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, thank you, Miss Latrice, for having me, and thank you for allowing me to share this space with Miss Deborah. She's amazing already. But yeah, a little bit about me. So I work as an assistant at a church, and I work with a lot of ministry leaders and with the general public that gets to, like, I interact with a lot of them. But I also have a background and a heart for people. A background in psychology, but I have a love and a heart to serve people. And I just see so many people that are just broken and hurting, right? And we encounter them every single day. And most of them, right, will never enter into a church building. So if I go on Facebook and just say, how are you doing? Many people don't get someone to ask them that question, like, how are you doing? And so I just try to be a light in any way, in any platform that God gives me. And just to check in with people. Like, it's as simple as just checking in with someone. Because mental health is a huge thing that people don't talk about, and it manifests physically and spiritually in so many other ways. So that's just my little pocket of the world.
her pocket of the world. Let me tell y'all, that's a deep pocket, y'all. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. That's a deep pocket for someone to have that type of empathy, where they just want to share themselves. And that's one of God's commandments. And when we think about Jesus and we think about, we're here on Gospelology. So it's the study of Jesus and and all of his miracles and his miraculous powers and the ways that he walked this earth. But then we have ology to study of. And as on Gospelology, we do it with a little scientific twist. And that's what Ciara is doing. She's just actually living out the gospel, when she's sharing her empathy and sharing the love that she has and giving it out to people, because we know that's how you're blessed when you begin to share. And so we're going to get started. Y'all know Gospelology, we got questions, y'all. We got questions. And we're going to get right into it. I'm going to put my glasses on now that y'all seen my beautiful purple eyes. Okay. And so I wanted to share, we're going to start tonight with Miss Deborah Frye. And Deborah, I wanted to ask you this. As a grief care consultant and life coach, it's up to you to create that safe space through the energy you put out, okay, and the environment that you create. Can you discuss with our audience the tools that you use to encourage your clients to express themselves? And can we as parents, teachers, and friends use these methods to help our kids?
Yes, absolutely. The first tool I use is empathy, right? People want to know that you care. People want to know that you can identify with them. People want to know that you are listening. You have a listening heart. It's one thing to listen with your ears. It's another thing to listen with your heart, because you are in tune with them. And people can tell if you're in tune with them or not. They know if you're just listening or if you have joined them in their grief. So I find times where I weep with my people that I consult with, because their stories are real. Their story is powerful. Their life, what they're going through, whether it's the loss of a loved one, whether it's the loss of a pet, whether it's a divorce, whether it is self-shame, whether it is a relationship, church hurt, there is some of everything. Can't tie your shoe right, then you can grieve about that too. Okay, there is some of everything that people can grieve about. And, the number one thing is that you must be in tune with the person that you are in front of. You must connect with them. And then I also teach people to see their glasses half full instead of half empty. I like to say that I teach in color. So, and that's because grief is a dark place. It is a dark corner that you can get trapped in. So I tell people that it's okay to grieve. Just don't get stuck in grief. Don't get stuck there. So it is very important to be intentional, get yourself some coping skills. So grief, you got to do some action with it. Okay. You just can't lay at home behind closed doors and you think you're going to cope with grief effectively. So you have to be your initiator. You got to get up out of that bed, even though it's hard. You have to stay around a core team so that if you can't get up out of the bed, you have somebody who knows to come in and check on you. So I give them all different ways and different avenues, positive ways and positive avenues, where they can see a light instead of where they can see a light out instead of just being behind that shadow of grief. So it's coping skills. It is the empathy. It is the compassion. It is the care. It is all things that you have to be able to deal with grief and those things that come along with grief.
Yes, it's mental health is so real. And one of the things that I wanted to ask Ciara, if you don't mind, it's when you think about this, what do you feel Ciara, we as parents, teachers, and friends can do to help bridge that gap? As a young adult, how can we as a parent, or how can we as teachers, what do you feel is one of the ways that we can maybe help bridge that gap between this generation and things that are going on? I mean, you heard Deborah talk about the coping skills and being around that circle of people that may be able to help us, but so many young people may not want to reach out to us. What can we do? What can we do? Just share with us what you feel.
Okay, what I love what Miss Deborah said was empathy, right? Because you have to see whether a person is 2 years old or they're 100 years old. You have to see their humanity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes we don't see people that are younger than us as human and experiencing the same emotions as we are, but they just are expressing them in different ways. So if you look at a 2-year-old or a 4-year-old who's grieving, it might show up in anxiety or temper tantrums
Mm-hmm.
or withdrawing and isolation, right? So it's normalizing it and having empathy, but also like checking in on that person, right? Seeing what's outside of the norm for them, right? Because sometimes they may be going through grief and not even knowing it, right? Because we've conditioned ourselves to think that grief is just the loss of a loved one. But like Miss Deborah said, it's the loss of a relationship. It's my day just went bad and I had a whole day planned and I'm grieving what I thought my day was going to look like.
Mm-hmm.
I'm grieving what I thought my life was going to look like.
Mm-hmm.
I'm grieving the loss of like so many things, like even with COVID, right? We had to grieve a way of life in a sense, right? Because we were so used to being busy and hiding behind things that all of the stuff that was inside of us came to the surface. And so like now we're navigating those ways and trying to deal with, okay, this is where I thought life was. This is where I actually thought I was mentally and emotionally. But that's not actually where I am. So it's just like you said, checking in, having conversations and being open with them and being okay with not having the answers, right? So like our generation and the generation younger than I am are going through so many different things, but they don't know how to necessarily vocalize them. Or if they do, they have this pushback, right? Because the older generation sometimes don't want to deal with the issues or even want to acknowledge or address that it is an issue. So the answer is just to ignore it, while this generation is just like swimming, like don't know how to swim and drowning deep in ocean water, because nobody's there to assist them and throw them a life raft. Like we don't have to have all the answers. Sometimes just listening and saying, I don't know the answer to this, but what I'm willing to do is hold your hand and walk alongside you, and we can figure it out together. And I think that's the biggest thing, that people want to be heard. Like this generation wants to be heard. They want to know that their feelings and what they're going through is valid, right? Because the older generation went through similar things, just in a different way, right? It doesn't look exactly the same, but you know, and you recognize that feeling. So I think like just putting yourselves in someone else's shoes, listening to them, being okay not having the answers, and just walking alongside of them, I think is some of the like easiest things that we can do. Not easiest things we can do, but first steps that we can take to solving the issue.
I love it. I love it. I love that whole thing about conversation. One of the things that we even shared last night on our youth ministry platform was that we have to understand that when we say that we talk to Sally, that doesn't mean you text Sally. It means you picked up the phone and you heard Sally's voice. But this generation, as we know, if I'm, you know what, I'm not even going to blame it on this generation because I have done it. My husband has said, did you talk to Jason? Yeah, I talked to Jason. I texted him 20 minutes ago. That text did not let me hear the anxiety in Jason's voice or the depression in his voice. And I think that's one of the things that we need to know, all of us. When these phones were created, it was meant to help with communication, not disseminate. And that's what is wrong with us today. We're texting, tweeting, we're DMing and everything else, and we're not listening or hearing the voices where, as you and Deborah both emphasized, that empathy. When Deborah said she cries with her people, you can't cry in a text. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
you can't cry and those things. So one of the things that, and like Ciara just mentioned about communication, it's so important for us to really listen and hone in on the needs of others and when they really need to communicate. I have a video that I'd like to show that talks about mental health, depression, grief, and things of that nature. And then we're going to come back and we're going to address some of those things that were talked about. Let's take a look at our video indicating and dealing with grief.
Depression, and anxiety, and also just feeling like I'm not good enough, feeling like people aren't going to accept me for what I am.
Sadness, stress, depression, anger.
Being anxious, anxiety, fear, anger, and frustration.
Anxiety and embarrassment are the top of the list of very intense emotions that I deal with.
Well, I had anger and heartbreak were the main ones.
Being insecure about myself, like the way I look and like my body size.
Like I usually just like keep to myself, kind of. I'm not really like joking around or anything like that.
I feel sick to my stomach and as if nothing can go right.
I feel like just like alone, and I feel like nobody can understand what I'm going through. It just kind of feels like I'm like this twig, that's a walking twig that just goes anywhere and everywhere.
It's just like emptiness, like a gap, like kind of just like is gone away from my body or so.
You just want to scream, and it's like your life is all one big puzzle.
I get shaky and my stomach gets sick and my mind is jumping to the worst case scenarios and it's all over the place, jumping to conclusions.
My mind kind of like clamps together in a way, and I can't like pick out each and every thought that I can because it just swirls around and I can't like grab it and trying to work through it.
My heart is racing. I can't speak really clearly. I'm like kind of sweaty and just kind of not looking too great.
I like just get really paranoid and don't know what to do.
Sometimes it's like I get like this knot in my throat because I know that what I'm feeling, I can't express it or you can't say it.
I want to punch everything around me. Like I want to punch a wall, a bed, and
when I take pictures of myself, I kind of use a black and white filter to tell me that everything will look the same and nothing will change.
Take some deep breaths and listen to music, and talking to someone about it usually helps.
I listen to music, often music that either has to do with the things that I'm feeling or music that will make me feel the opposite of what I'm feeling. And I tell myself that whatever I'm feeling or going through, it's all going to get better and that it will end eventually.
I try to just think positive, have positive thoughts, and say I can get through it. Or I just try to just breathe and just relax.
I usually like write a poem, or like I'll try to figure out some kind of jazz chords to play on my piano to like mellow my mood a little bit. So
I try to remind myself that I'm not the only one who feels this way. I try to cool myself down to make everything go away.
And so
I try to remind myself.
That was a lot. That was a lot to see our young people struggling. And that was one of the reasons why I am here tonight, doing what we're doing, and to hear them express all of the things that they feel and the things that we may miss, that they may not share. Wonder why they're shaking, wonder why they're feeling the anxiety, wonder why they can't breathe, all of these things. And Deborah and Ciara both shared with us that we have to have that empathy and understand that we all grieve and express ourselves differently and about the communication. So we're going to come back. We're going to take a small commercial break. And then Deborah and Ciara, Deborah Frye and Ciara Hill, we're going to discuss that just a little bit more. And then we're going to share some more ideas and some more things that we as parents, adults, teachers, friends can do to help our kids get through this specific time. And even us, what we're going on. So let's go ahead and hear from our sponsors.
Gospelology Lab, that we are telling everybody about this new thing that we have going on. We're spreading the word about our Coding Academy. That's right. So if you want to know more about the Coding Academy, you want to learn Roblox, you want to learn Python, you want to learn how to scratch and make your own video games and do JavaScript, head on over to the Gospelologyclub.com. Click on that button at the top that says Coding Academy, and you can follow Spacewalk all through our Coding Academy, okay? We'd love to have you in there.
All right, you guys, we have a Coding Academy that has just started, and we're so excited about it. So if you have any kids, grandkids that would be interested in coding, and if you want to learn about coding, head on to Gospelology and the Coding Academy. No problem. So that'll be great. So we are back with Miss Ciara Hill and Miss Deborah Frye, and we just watched a video of some young people who were expressing the things that they go through when they're dealing with these mental health issues, when they're dealing with grief and how they express themselves. And so I wanted to ask both of you ladies, we'll start with Ciara tonight. As you've seen that, could you get a feeling or understanding, and this is to you as well, Deborah, do you feel that grief and mental health are connected? Do you feel that grief and mental health are connected?
Absolutely. I mentioned it earlier. Grief is a huge topic, right? And it transcends different areas, different life experience. Like everybody's going to experience it, and they're going to experience it in a different way. And so, like, just to hear the kids, like, specifically the guy who was talking about anger, right? Like, I'm wondering, like, when I listen to that, I'm like, okay, what trauma has he experienced that his first response is, I just want to punch something, right? Because that's an expression of grief in some way. Maybe grief of missing a parent, missing a sibling. Thinking about, like, the environments that our kids are growing up in, right? Like, are they in safe neighborhoods? What things are they witnessing, right? Like, that's a grief of losing your friend, losing your sense of safety and security, right? So all of that affects your mental health and how you process things. If you're growing up not feeling safe, whether it's in yourself, in your home, at school, right? That's going to promote anxiety. That's going to promote fear. That's going to promote anger. And then you can start developing depression, or all of them can, like, manifest all at one time. So grief is definitely connected to mental health. And like Miss Deborah said earlier, it's like a shadow, like, that's over you, right? Like, you feel detached from reality. I'll never forget one of my friends lost her parent, her mom. And even though I haven't lost my parents, I just could reach out and empathize, knowing that she felt like life was going on just around her and that she was, like, detached from it, right? Because it is like this shadow that is cast over you. So just, like, reaching out and realizing that it is a mental health thing, and let's normalize it. Don't make it like a stigma. Like, that grief is a stigma. Normalize it. Like, yes, like she said, everybody in every walk of life is going to experience grief in some way, form, or fashion. So we just need to learn how to navigate it together and respect that people have different timelines, and they're going to have different ways of processing their grief.
Love it. I love it. I love it. Deborah, if you could add to that.
Yeah, well, that is excellent, Ciara. Really, really excellent caption. But yeah, she's absolutely right. Grief can be that trigger to your mental health, right? You can already have a diagnosis of mental health issues, but the complications of grief, the that compiling on top of what you already have gone through. I mean, and that was heavy to watch. Child after child after I call them children because I have children their age. I just wanted to just kiss them and hug them up and just love them and hold them as tight as I could as they were talking. So like Ciara said, yes, when the young man said he just wanted to punch something, he just want to, what trauma has he gone through? What trauma has happened to him, or what trauma has he seen with that kind of comments? So, the young lady who says she wants all of her pictures in black and white so that nothing ever changes. So she can't even see the color and her beauty of herself. So I tell people all the time to look in the mirror. Look in the mirror. Don't you put on no makeup, nothing. Look in the mirror and you give yourself some affirmations because you are beautiful. You are needed. You are able to do whatever. So I think that has a lot to do with our younger generation. They have so much social media and stuff that they look at where beauty is just in front of them. But they don't realize that their beauty was because somebody made that person up, or somebody dressed that person, or somebody drove that person somewhere. They didn't do this beauty on their own. So we have to get back to self-care, self-love, self-affirmations. We have got to start building ourselves up and have the kindness to where those sweet young men and women to have someone to speak into their life and to have kind words and affirmations over them until they get it, until they know how wonderful they are.
I love it. I love it. That's so powerful. And one of the things that you just mentioned, Deborah, is social media.
Yeah.
How, but you know what, if we even go back beyond social media, I share with people that art is only art because someone of a significant rank or power said that it is art. You have different pictures that are on the wall. The Mona Lisa, the most expensive and the most beautiful painting. I'm not saying that she's ugly, but it's not to me the most
right.
But somebody of authority who has a artistic certification said that she was beautiful. So then we pay millions of dollars for her.
Correct.
And that's what's happening with our young people too. They need that validation from those things that they feel, the likes, the hearts, the comments, the number of views and all of those things. It's no different to me when going back in the day when, people would because they had certain ranks would validate a picture and say that this is what it is. And so we see that across the board. And so you are so right that self-affirmation and expressing and teaching our children that at a young age when they're 2, I am smart. I am beautiful. I am great. When they start to talk, we need to, from the womb, when you're pregnant actually talking to your child and sharing all those things with them from the very beginning so that they can constantly know those things. And I just think it's just amazing, ladies, just amazing. One of the things I wanted to know, too, was how can you, from both of you, Deborah, we'll start with you. What does putting a positive spin on grief and mental health look like? What does putting a positive spin on grief and mental health look like to you?
Well, first of all, it's like Ciara said, not making it a stigma. Let's discuss it. Let's talk about it because we're all a little bit mentally challenged. If you really want to look at it, okay? I know I am. I'm a little mentally challenged.
Two hands, y'all.
We all are. Okay. So, but some people know how to hold it under the cover better than others. So, we have to be respectful to one another, to be able to give each other space to be yourself, and not shame as so easily as the world does, and cover people that are not as bright or sharp or whatever. So I think those two things together, it is covering people's flaws. It is helping people in their time when their heart is the most tender, when they're going through mental issues or when they're going through grief. That is usually when your heart is the most tender and pliable. So it is just always good to have somebody to come alongside that will be able to mentor, to help them, and to care for them.
Awesome, awesome. Ciara, what do you think? What does it look like when you think about putting a positive spin on grief? I know you mentioned before, but if you could just reiterate that one more time for us, what do you feel? What does it putting a positive spin on grief and mental illness look like to you?
Okay, I want to follow up on one thing Miss Deborah said about people being strong. Just realizing that people can be strong in one area and not necessarily another, right? Like one person can be strong if they lost their house, but if they lost someone close to them, that it would look differently, right? And so let's honor to our strengths, even in our weaknesses. I always like to say, like, recognize where you're strong at, right? Like, I held it all together for this. And like, that'll help get you out of a dark spot too, if you celebrate your wins, celebrate how far you've came, right? And just because I had a bad moment today in this area doesn't mean that I'm, failing in life, right? Like, start celebrating and mentally recalling how far you've come and what you did right that day. So maybe you're in the midst of grief, right? And you got up and you took a shower. Okay, that's a win, right? Let's celebrate that right where you came from. Maybe tomorrow we'll take a shower and brush our teeth, right? Yes. like just let's celebrate the small things. Yes. I also loved how they found, like in the video with the young people, they found something to help them. Like one boy, I think he said he started writing poetry. Another girl said she started like listening to music. And that's another thing that you could connect with, like find something as a creative outlet to help you get it out, whether that's writing, listening to music, dancing, like some form of creative expression. I find is very therapeutic in a sense. Singing, karaoke, like whatever it is to help. Another positive way to get through grief is talking about it with somebody else who's walking through it and sharing those stories and talking about it with family if they're at that level and ready to discuss like that family member. And just finding the community, and like it's so many communities of people that's hurting that they find together. So I think that is another way that they can put a positive spin on grief. Because you never know, like you helping somebody else, that's your testimony to help someone else get through. And that's saying, you're getting healed along the way. So
I love it. Oh, Ciara, that's awesome. Our conversation has just blew up in the chat. Everybody on Facebook is loving us, and they're sharing how important this is and how important it is for us to connect with our young people. They love how we should celebrate each win. Deborah, they're just saying yes, yes, yes. Amen, Deborah Frye. This is so important to instill in our youth. They're saying how this is one of the most important podcasts that they have seen just recently, how it's so needed. And so we thank you. We thank you both. I wanted to just share with something. If I have about 3 more minutes, and I wanted to share maybe 20 seconds, if my producers will allow me to share about 20 seconds, because there is another segment of our society that does not express grief like others do, and we want to share that a little bit because Deborah has a something that she wants to do, and I want to share with see if Ciara has any comments about that. We want to talk about men in grief. We want to talk about how do men grieve, and then we want to just share. We're going to be real short. We have about like 3 minutes, so we're going to take about 20 seconds just to listen a little bit about men with grief. Let's take a look at this video.
Loss is an unavoidable part of the human experience, and yet it's not something we tend to talk about openly. Why do you think that is? Well, the most obvious answer that probably anybody would give you is that it's painful, and pain is intimidating to most of us, if not all of us. It's unpleasant, And it's difficult because we often don't have the language to express accurately what we're feeling when we're in pain, and I think even worse, we don't really have the language that we need that's accurate to express what we feel when we're trying to support somebody. And so regardless of which side you're on, I think there's a language issue that makes it difficult. And it's when you have language issues, it means that you get into areas where a lot of misunderstandings can arise, because misinterpretations can happen in terms of how people are actually feeling and where they actually are in their process. So I think that has a lot to do with it. It's particularly difficult for men because we've typically been socialized not to be vulnerable, not to reveal ourselves, not to express difficult states, not to ask for help. And one of the reasons that men don't ask for help is because they're all too often used to being told no when they do ask, whether that's as boys or as adults. The services and the resources that are available for men that are grieving and dealing with loss are pretty thin. And I think also that there are some well-intentioned, well-meaning efforts out there that attempt to be helpful to men but miss the mark, perhaps because they don't understand.
That said it all. That said it all right there. Deborah. Ciara, I'm going to let Deborah handle this one real quick.
Right.
That man is a typical example of what we see a lot of men going through. And the thing is he said something so powerful. He said how men are they're used to typically hearing the word no, that they don't need the help. And that's because everybody looks at a man as being the one who should give the help. They're the strong ones. They're the positive. They can't grieve. It doesn't look right. And you have a project that you are doing called, I must be quiet. I'm going to be quiet. I just want you to share, if you can give us like about a minute before our producers yell at us.
Okay.
If you can give us about a minute on what you are doing. He said that there's not much help out there for them, Deborah. What do you have?
Well, we're getting ready to have some help. We're getting ready to hit the ground running. My project is a book anthology. And a book anthology, my husband told me I need to tell people what a book anthology is. It is a project that people collaborate together. So you're not doing it by yourself. And everybody writes a chapter in the book. And the name of the book is Grief Through His Eyes. So I am hunting down men that want to share their story, men that want to leave a legacy for their great-great-grands down the road, men that want to collaborate with other men. All right, we're going to have a men cave. This thing is going to build, and it's going to build, and you're going to have the support men that you want to have. But first, you got to come and be a part of the group, right? You got to come and be a part of the group. So many times we want to see something begin, but we stand on the outskirts and we just wait and see who's going to jump in first. So my husband has jumped in first. He's my first co-author. So I am looking for more men to join Michael as we talk about grief through his eyes. Grief Through His Eyes, title straight from heaven, Grief Through His Eyes, and subtitle is Seeing Grief from His Point of View. Yes. So we are going to work on that project together. Nobody is going to be left by themselves. We're going to have coaches. We're going to have people that's going to look at your writing to help you write the best chapter you can. There are so many great things that come along with this project. You just got to come. You just got to come and be a part. We are going to have an interest meeting February 15th at 8 p.m. That way you're done after Valentine's Day. You're done with your honeydews or whatever you have to do. And you can come and hang out in the men's den on February 15th. At 8 p.m. So that it's going to be an interest meeting. You're going to get all the deets on the project. You can go to my Facebook page and see all of the information there as well. And then I'll give you more particulars once we get into the actual interest meeting. So you won't leave with any how, what, when. You're going to know everything. And at that point, you just need to come alongside because we are gunning for best-selling authors. So let's do it. Let's do it. So we have some great things in store for that man that wants to have the support and want to share and want to build in that male community.
I love it. I love it. And Deborah's information is being shown right now to our audience. And if you are interested or know a man who has expressed or went through some type of grief and could not express it, here's an opportunity for them to get it out and to express it where they dealt with it. Ciara, have you ever known of or seen a difference in men grieving differently from women or children or anything of that nature? Just give us a little bit about what you feel about that.
I feel like, as the gentleman shared in the video, that they or men aren't in general given space to grieve, right? They are quick to tell, like, in their minds, to get back to work because that's always what they had to do. It was no room at the table for them to share their emotions, right? And so I think it needs to be a normalization of them being able to share how they're feeling, and for them not to feel like they're weak or not to be viewed weakly, right? Mm-hmm. Because they are having a moment. We're human, like they're human. Mm-hmm. So emotions is something that God has given us to navigate. So they should have the same space as we as females have to express those feelings. And also, I believe that our relationships with men will be better, like if they're able to.
Come on, Ciara. Come on.
To be able to speak and share how they feel in a safe space, and not be viewed like that they're not masculine. Like, it's room at the table for both our emotions. We can cry together.
This coming from a single young woman, y'all. Come on. That was education there. That is so true. And we appreciate it. We appreciate it. Deborah, there is a question in the chat that I would like to pose to you for our audience and for our viewers. Someone wants to know, can young teenagers be able to be a participant, young males, in your book? Have you thought about that?
Absolutely. As long as they can read and write and express themselves. Yes, absolutely.
Great.
Absolutely. We have young authors, all over the world. So why not? Why not start early and expounding yourself in that field of grief and showing older men how to share? So absolutely, bring them on.
I love it. I love it. And matter of fact, one of our previous guests, Olivia George, is one of our podcast guests. She is now a published author. And so we're so happy for her. And she is not even a graduate yet of high school. She's graduating this year of that high school. And so we're really excited for her. And so her mom, Tracy Georges, if you go on Minister Tracy Georges, she has the book on there. And so we're so proud of Olivia. Well, ladies, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing this information tonight. I know that we have been a blessing to somebody out there. And if we have, please subscribe to our Gospelology podcast show. Let me know. Send me an email so I can get it out to these ladies. Their information is also in there where you can also connect with them. And I would just love for you to let them know what this meant to you. And please remember to stay connected to our young people. Please talk to them. No text, no tweet. Pick up a phone. Let them hear your voice. You hear their voice. Pick up any type of things that are going on, any anxieties in their voice or anything, and be open. And like Ciara and Deborah Gross expressed, everybody goes through this differently. Their grief and their mental health may look different from what you're going through. So respect it, and let's come together as a community and stop this madness. Okay? Thank you all again for joining me here on the Gospelology. You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
You are so welcome. And thank you to our remote producers. They are amazing. And
yes, they are.
That right now we're getting ready to go out with our theme song, Gospelology, Gospelology. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night. Bless you all.